Okay, so this is Deanna Prentice, and she's athletic trainer for the U of A. Deanna, thank you so much for being here with us today and sharing information about your career. So at this time, I'm just going to go ahead and hand it over to you.
Sounds great. Hi, everybody. My name is Deanna Prentice. I am the head athletic trainer for track and field here for the Razorbacks. This is finishing year 9 of being a certified athletic trainer. A little bit about my path to kind of get to where I am for the Hogs. Well, I guess first, maybe I'll start with what athletic training is. I don't know if everybody kind of knows about the profession. So athletic training is a health profession, of course, and specifically we work with typically a lot of elite level athletes. So pretty much my role here at the University of Arkansas, I'm the first line of defense for our athletes, whether they're sick, have an injury, need a referral to some other kind of specialty like psychology or, any other major physicians. I'm kind of their first stop. So they call us a jack of all trades of sorts. So a lot of treatment, rehab for your typical injuries. I'm sure some of you guys are probably athletes at Gentry and know about life in the athletic training room and how you can get hurt on the field. So that's what I do here, specifically for our track and field teams. A little bit about my background. I'm originally from Atlanta, Georgia. I graduated from the University of Georgia, go Dogs, just won a national championship. And I came here to Arkansas for grad school, graduated here with my master's in 2016. And during that time, I got my start as a graduate assistant in the athletic department in athletic training, and I specifically work with track and field. There's so many different sports and different roads you can go down in athletic training, which I can touch on a little later. But specifically for me, I'm all about track and field. And Arkansas is really the best track and field program in the nation. We're the most successful program of NCAA history of any sport with 47 national championships. So track here is a really big deal. A little bit about my day-to-day, I'd say, as an athletic trainer. Coming in the morning, we're still kind of in a weird time because our kids haven't gone back to school yet, like you guys. We start next week. So morning time, typically I'm in my office like I am now, kind of going over some paperwork, whether it's putting in notes from doctor's offices, catching up on logging all of our treatments and rehabs. Anytime we touch someone, that actually gets recorded for our data and also for yours too. You can kind of look back at your injury and see everything we've done. Sit on a couple meetings for the university, whether it's meeting with like an academic counselor, someone struggling, all the different facets here in college athletics. And then around like 10, maybe we'll have some kids start weaning in for treatments and rehabs. But my day really gets crazy when we start getting ready for practice. I like to call it the witching hour because it is just chaos. We have 120 athletes on our track and field team here at Arkansas, so it's a big number. Pretty much us in football are the biggest teams on campus, and they start pouring in for practice. We start practice around 2 o'clock. So a lot of checking out any new injuries, doing treatment, heating people up, stretching, just getting people ready to go for the day. And our groups kind of stagger in throughout the day with track. There's so many different events. And then typically we kind of finish between like 6:30, 6:45 every night. So kind of some long days with athletic training. I think if you're really interested in athletic training, you really gotta love it. It is not for the lighthearted. It's a lot of hours, but at the same time, it's super, super rewarding with the different people you get to meet and just the cool events you get to be a part of. I've personally traveled to World Championship meets for track and field, the NCAA championship, SEC championships we're hosting this year. So you get to work with a lot of different athletes from all backgrounds, which I think is a really cool aspect of athletic training. I know some of you guys probably know about physical therapy. I think there's actually a PT breakout room here. We kind of cross over a lot in terms of careers and what we do. But with athletic training, we tend to specialize with more of the high level elite athletes versus PT. They kind of see all kinds of things in the population and some pretty serious conditions as well. So at Arkansas, unlike some other schools with athletic training and sports medicine, we're in the SEC. We have a lot of assets and money to be able to hire a lot of people on staff. I think our athletic training staff, I think we have about 20 certified athletic trainers on campus, probably compared to the maybe like the one that you have at your high school for a lot of different athletes. So we're able to specialize a lot more. For example, I just work in track and field. We have 5 athletic trainers that work just with football. So kind of across the board, we get really specialized, which is really nice at this level to kind of focus with one particular team. For me, athletic training has been super rewarding because I feel like there's no real other specialty with medicine that kind of allows you to have the closeness and the relationship building that you can get as an athletic trainer. Because as most of you know, especially ones that play sports, your athletic trainer, you're pretty close with that person and you guys spend a lot of time together, in and out of practice. So being able to still use my anatomy, use my skills, work with our team physician in the medicine field, but not be kind of held down into a clinic makes this job pretty exciting. There's something new every day, and being around sports also makes it really, really fun. We win a lot, which makes it exciting, but it's not your typical 9-to-5 job. Now, more recently, there has been athletic trainers that have been expanding into different roles, like working in a clinic for a physician, kind of helping show people rehab programs, fitting them for different boots and things like that. If any of you have ever been hurt and had to go to the doctor's office, you might have worked with the athletic trainer there. They're going into industrial medicine, like, the factories at like Tyson and Google and all these businesses are hiring athletic trainers to assist with preventing injury on the job. So there's a lot of different up and coming fields too with athletic training that's not only, college athletics. Although college athletics is where I ended up in what I do now. I don't know if you guys have any specific questions about athletic training, but I don't know, you guys can open it up for questions if you want, or I can also kind of keep chatting about my path and different experiences in sports medicine.
I will say, guys that are out there watching, and we've got kids from several different schools watching. We've got kids from Gentry and Huntsville, Decatur, several different schools on here. So guys, remember that if you have questions at any time, have your room monitor just type those into the chat so that I can ask those of Ms. Prentice. And then other than questions that they come up with, I've got a few that I'll ask you, but if you've got anything else that you want to go ahead and add, I'll let you keep talking or we can go into questions, whichever you would prefer.
Perfect. I'll keep chatting a little bit.
Okay.
I'll talk a little bit about kind of the education and individual schooling and stuff for athletic training. So I'm not that old, I'm 31, but I feel like a dinosaur at this point. But when I came through with athletic training, I graduated from Georgia undergrad and was able to sit for my boards exam for athletic training. Now they've slightly changed our education system to kind of follow something more similar to what physical therapists have done. So now athletic training is a master's degree. So you will have to go to school, you'll get your undergrad degree, hopefully get some observation hours there with some sport teams or with a team physician. And then you will have to apply to graduate school to a accredited athletic training program, and then you'll be able to sit for your boards. So it's slightly different than when I came through, and a little bit more of a time and money commitment at that with a higher level degree. So I tell a lot of kids, even some of my students that shadow me now, just to make sure you really get in the training room and do some observation hours to make sure that this is really what you want to do, because it is a very large investment. And like some other professions in medicine, like nursing and other things, there is a high level of burnout associated with it, just because you're working for so long and giving so much of yourself to people, which is very rewarding at the same time, but can also lead to high levels of burnout and stress. But the University of Arkansas does have a entry-level master's program that's accredited. It's actually one of the oldest in the country, I believe. They've been doing it this way for over 20 years at this point. So Arkansas has really got the process down of, how to create good athletic trainers and kind of put them into the world. A lot of our students are in the NFL, in the NBA, some are here. So we're really kind of spread out. And that's a testament to the education here at the University of Arkansas. But that's one thing that's really changed, I think, probably from some of your athletic trainers at your schools and stuff that would be different than, the education system that we had, and what you have to do now is a little different.
So can I ask you a quick question? So you talked about how now to be an athletic trainer, it's a graduate degree. So you have to go to an accredited program, like one through the U of A. What would a student just coming out of high school, if they were thinking about taking this path, what would they need to choose as like their major starting out college?
Yeah, really, I think most of us tend to focus on like an exercise and sports science type major or kinesiology, because then you should be able to get your anatomy courses, your basic sciences, and things that you will need to apply to grad school for an athletic training program. I personally, I did have my undergrad degree in athletic training, but I also went ahead and did exercise sports science in school too, because it just gives you a good solid background in a lot of the sciences that you need to do sports medicine, like biomechanics. You got to get through chemistries and things like that. So definitely more of a kinesiology type background is good, that a lot of schools do offer now, or just some kind of science. So just so you can get all the prerequisites that you would need.
Thank you very much. Sorry, that's our bell. So since we're talking about education, are there any, if a student's in high school and they think they might be interested in this, are there any high school courses that you, specific courses that you would recommend them be looking into? Or anything they can do in high school if they're a junior or senior in high school and they think they're interested? What kinds of things can they start doing now in relation to your field?
Absolutely. I do know there are some high schools that do have like a basic class in athletic training. I think a lot of athletic trainers at the high school setting, some of them will teach a bit too as part of their contract. So I would look for opportunities like that. But also, if you guys do have athletic trainers at your high schools, which hopefully you do, I would chat with them and really ask if you can spend some time with them, shadowing a couple hours a week, just being in and around the athletic training room, because you'll need references, and you'll really need to prove a certain amount of hours that you've been observing and been around athletic trainers when you are applying to an athletic training program. So I think your best resource would really be speaking to your athletic trainer at your high school, or if you don't necessarily have an athletic trainer, I do know most high schools will have some type of network with like a physician that will cover like a lot of their sporting events and things like that. Or I would try talking to him or her about potential opportunities, because just being a physician working in sports, I'm sure they know a lot of athletic trainers in the area. Even here at the U of A, I'm pretty open to having people come in and shadow or hang out, depending on what time of the year it is. Summers are great for that. If you are around in the summer, we're pretty open to having kids on campus too, if you're interested and kind of just want to check it out.
Awesome. That sounds like a great opportunity for some students. You've talked about this a little bit, but can you kind of expand a little bit on how physically and mentally demanding your job is? And I'm sure that changes a little bit depending on the time of year, but if you could just talk about that a little bit.
Absolutely. So I work with my hands all day. It's a very manually intensive job. The hours typically a typical day for me is probably working like 12 hours on campus. I average between, maybe on a good week, I'm working like 55 to 60 hours, but when we really get into season, those numbers can easily be higher, because I'm on campus every single day. So it is a huge time commitment alone. And then physically, we're stretching people, manual therapy like massage, dry needling, lots of different modalities that we're using on people. So I'm on my feet most of the day. The only time I'm really kind of sitting down or doing desk work is my morning time, when I try to kind of stay on top of my own personal paperwork, and like occasionally throughout the day, sometimes during practice, we might be able to kind of sit and watch a little bit. But outside of that, we are up and we are moving and we are doing a lot. So very physically demanding. You've got to be able to, lift people's body parts, move them around. So yeah, you've got to be, I'm not going to say there's not like a physical like test that that you need to do for athletic training, but you do have to be able to move people and bodies and work on different body parts. So it is pretty physically intensive as well as mentally intensive, which is really important, even no matter what your profession or even you guys in school, is finding a good outlet to release stress, to help your mental health. Otherwise, it'll eat away at you, and my brain can turn forever. But I like to do yoga, I like to exercise and work out, and that's kind of what keeps me mentally healthy and ready to attack every day, even when the days are super demanding. Like right now, we're about to start season. Our first meet's on Friday. So it is go time, and we will go until the mid-June is when the NCAA season ends for track and field. But quite a few of our kids are elite enough and will make Team USA and some of their other teams. So their season will go well into July, and we'll kind of travel with them and still be around. So it's a long year.
Thank you so much. Could you kind of tell me what's the most challenging part of your job?
I'd say it's probably the most challenging part, but also the most important part of my job. At the end of the day, as an athletic trainer, my goal is to maintain the safety and well-being of all of our student athletes. I think we all just watched something pretty traumatic happen with the NFL game with the Buffalo Bills, that went down on the field. So that is real life, and that is my reality. So it's more so balancing the demands of sport and what a coach or a strength coach or someone is looking and demanding for something. But my job is also to be that person that says like, no, we have to stop. And sometimes that's making a call. We're vying for a national championship, and in the middle of the championship, something happens and someone can't go. And that's my job to say like, no, like he or she isn't playing anymore. Like we can't do this. And that can cause a lot of friction with the coaching staff. I'm sure those of you that play high school sports, I'm sure you guys see it too. If you tell a coach you can't go. So that's probably the hardest part, but it's the most important part, because at the end of the day, your job as an athletic trainer is to keep people safe. And sometimes it's making the hard calls and even sometimes saving an athlete from themselves.
That does seem like it would be a very challenging part of the job, because of course you want the team to compete and be successful, but you also have to think about the safety of the athletes first and foremost. So
yeah.
So thank you for being an advocate for our athletes. What like personality characteristics would you say would be most important for somebody to have if they want to go into the athletic training career field?
Yeah, things that I look for in some of like my interns, really you've got to have a willingness to learn, because even in medicine, things change all the time. So I think some people can really get almost stuck in their ways of doing something and not open to learning new things or trying new treatments. So you've really got to be open to learning new things and very adaptable, especially if you want to work in athletics. I would say most days I don't, sometimes I know, but a lot of the times coaches will change things on you last minute. And you've got to kind of play catch up and figure out what the schedule is of the day and adjust on the fly. So being adaptable is huge. because sometimes, it's hard to plan when there's so many moving parts and things in the air. And also really just being a hard worker. It's really easy in athletic training to kind of get down into like a negative space, or talk about all the hours you're working and all this stuff. But really, it's about being positive, because we knew what the job was when we got into it. So I think you've got to be a positive person, and uplifting, and generally a people person. If you don't really like talking to new people and being around people, then athletic training probably isn't the field for you. I have conversations with people all day, every day. I'm more of an introvert myself, but I'm kind of extroverted. I guess I'm what they call like the extroverted introvert kind of person. So by the time I go home, I'm like, oh my gosh, I talked to a lot of people today. But that's just part of the job. You are the main line of communication for a lot of people, and really a lot of people's go-to person. Like, you'll probably even get calls about stuff that's not even, medicine, athletic related. Like, you're just athletic trainers are such a outlet and a pillar and a friend to people on the team. So I think being adaptable, being a hard worker, you got to be a people person, and really just staying positive are probably the best attributes you can have as an athletic trainer.
You talked a little bit about, I think you said that the football team at the U of A has 5 athletic trainers on staff. And you said that you work specifically with the track and field team. How many athletic trainers work with you, and about how many athletic trainers work with other sports teams?
Yeah. So yes, football has 5 certified athletic trainers. Clearly football, there is a lot going on at all times, heavy contact sport. So they definitely need that help. They also have a lot of students there, undergraduate observers and students in the master's program. At track and field, myself, I'm the head athletic trainer, and then I have 2 assistants. We also have a couple undergrad observers and 4 master's students working with us as well. If you go down and look at more of our like smaller number sports, swimming has 1. They also have like an intern that kind of helps with dive, but she's also kind of a floater for our department, just because swim and dive can get separated on trips a lot. Gymnastics has 1 athletic trainer. They don't have that many people. Men's basketball has 1. Women's basketball has 1. Again, like lower roster numbers. Baseball only has 1, surprisingly. Corey has a lot of athletes, but he's also getting some help kind of from intern perspective in the fall before they make their cuts, so he can have lower numbers in the spring. Softball also only has 1 athletic trainer. So pretty much from a staffing perspective, we look at the amount of student athletes that are on the team, and that's generally what we make our decisions about for coverage. For example, though, if you go to even a smaller Division I school in the Power 5, they might only have 1 athletic trainer for track and field, because it's also about just having the resources to pay people, is really important too. And a lot of schools, unfortunately, can't afford to provide that high level of care for their athletes, which is really sad and kind of a bummer for those schools, and even those athletic trainers, because clearly not everyone's need is getting met, but they're doing the best they can with the resources that they can. So here and a lot of other, major Division I programs, we're pretty blessed to have just a lot of staff to help.
That's awesome. Without talking about like necessarily your specific salary, can you talk a little bit about maybe like starting salary for athletic trainers, salary range, opportunities for advancement or raises, and other benefits that come with being an athletic trainer typically?
Absolutely. So athletic training, I'm going to try to say this in the nicest way possible. Probably like a teaching profession in a way. We are very underpaid for the amount of time and the work that we put in, especially now with you investing money into a master's level degree. Hopefully that will help kind of bump the average salary range up. I will say now it has gotten better in the last couple of years. For what we do, I'll say specifically at the University of Arkansas, which is kind of comparable to other schools and programs around the nation. Generally, a starting entry-level salary is anywhere from like $45,000 to $48,000 a year. And that's pretty standard, I'd say, probably with the rest of the country. Which again, compared to the education that you put in and the amount of hours you're working, it's not necessarily that high. Now I'm doing definitely better than that, almost 10 years in. And some schools like Arkansas, they offer a bonus structure. So if my teams are succeeding, then there is opportunity to make to get an extra bonus, at the end of the year, which is also really great. A lot of schools don't do that. Arkansas is amazing in that regard. Thank you. Sorry, people are coming up to my office constantly. But the salaries for athletic trainers could really, really use some work. It's one of the things that is really probably the biggest downfall of people going into this profession, in my opinion. And I think that's why I really tell people, if you really, really want to do this, like, you'll be great. But if you really don't like it and you don't like the hours, and you're being underpaid, you might be a miserable person, and nobody wants that. Now, if you get into the professional sports, their salaries are generally a bit higher, or when you make it to be a head of sports medicine or like a director of sports medicine where you're in charge of a department, you're generally making like a 6-figure salary, which is great. In pro sports, you're going to get paid a bit more, and you'll also actually have kind of a better balance of living, because professional sports, those pro athletes have families and other things they need to get to as well, unlike college athletics when we're just grinding flat out all day, every day. Salary, I think with the change in education, the idea is that our salary range will increase. But yeah, right now it's definitely a bit low compared to the amount of work that you are putting in for this career.
I just want to remind everybody, just for a second, if you have questions at all during this time, just give those questions to your room monitor so they can post them in the chat so that we make sure we can get your questions asked. I guess I'll take this opportunity. Deanna, is there anything else that we haven't touched on yet? I still have a few questions I can ask, but is there anything else that you think is important to share about your career?
I feel like we've touched on quite a bit of it. I think if there's one thing I can drive home about athletic training, is that, you're not just taping ankles. There's so much more that you do to help a team and help a student athlete, that truly makes this career really rewarding. You're kind of in a position of being able to change lives in a way, even specifically working with athletes that have had some, not catastrophic, but some serious monumental injuries, like that have halted their athletic careers, and watching them come back from that, there's no greater feeling. So I think if you truly do have an interest, I can give my contact info. I don't mind if you guys send that out. It's a really rewarding profession, and I think if it's a great fit for you, it's a really good thing that you can excel in and have fun and travel and really see the world through sports.
That's awesome. Is there any, once you get into your career as an athletic trainer, is there any additional education from time to time, or any additional, training to keep up with, the latest needs for your career field?
Absolutely. There's a lot of certifications. Right now, I think we went through a phase of cupping, during the 2012 Olympics. But now, one of the bigger things is dry needling, which is a little different from acupuncture. So dry needling is not something that you will learn in school as an athletic trainer, but it's something that you will take a course for, to be able to perform that skill on people. Also, as an athletic trainer, every 2 years, there's a certain amount of continuing education credits that you'll have to get and submit. It's 50 every 2 years, I believe. We're actually due this year, so I should probably check online. So all those kind of dry needling courses or anything you might be interested in, like, functional movement patterns. Like you can even get into a little bit of the strength and conditioning side. Like I'm heavy into rehab exercises. So that's kind of what more of my continuing education is based in. So there's a lot of different certifications and little areas that you can get into depending on what you're interested in, that really can expand your abilities as an athletic trainer.
So you talked about this a little bit earlier. You were talking about major companies like Tyson and companies like that starting to hire people with an athletic training background to help prevent injuries and stuff. If you could you talk about that a little bit more, and like how much your experience and your career and your education would allow someone to swap into other career fields if they still wanted to do the same type of work, but maybe decided that college athletics was too demanding time-wise or something like that?
Absolutely. So they call it industrial athletic training, the industrial setting. And it's really, really taken off. I think even your salaries that you're being paid working as an industrial athletic trainer are relatively high compared to college athletics. And your hours are a lot better, and still doing the similar things that you're doing, except maybe you're not covering a practice, you're not outside with a group of athletes, but you're still evaluating injuries, giving them rehab plans and exercises to do. They're checking in with you every day. But it's just, not on the field. So I personally have never worked in the industrial setting, but I have a lot of friends that have kind of gotten into that realm. Even like Google kind of hires at like some of their factories. Amazon is a major hire for athletic trainers at a lot of their warehouses too. And really, a lot of their workers can get pretty injured. I mean, you're moving, doing a lot of like picking up boxes, and like you're climbing up and down off of like ladders, or you're just doing all kinds of active activities in this field. So it is nice for them to have an athletic trainer who can provide pretty much the same services that you're providing to an athletic population, but just a different group of people with slightly different needs. But it is definitely an emerging field, but definitely there's a huge need there in I think the perspective hiring and growth for athletic training in that field is really, really high. So you can still kind of get the hands-on work, as an athletic trainer, but, as you said, not work, 60 hours a week and, traveling with teams everywhere. I've also had a lot of friends, about half of the class I graduated with from Georgia. They've moved into, they have some that are like APRNs, like they've gone into advanced nursing degrees. I have some that have become physician assistants, PAs, kind of transitions easily, and more PAs, not even just in like the orthopedic setting, but some have gone into other settings as well. Some have gone back to PT school. So yeah, kind of athletic training. There's a lot of people that stick with it forever. Then there's a lot of people that use it as a stepping stone into a next career, and they find that they're more than prepared than a lot of their other classmates once they kind of get into that realm.
It's always good to hear like what kind of options people have, because sometimes you pick a career and you follow an education route into a career, and then your life situation changes and the time requirements of being a college athletic trainer might not necessarily fit your time requirements for your family and things like that. So it's encouraging to hear that someone could still follow that education path and that career pathway and do similar work, but there's opportunities to kind of branch out into other fields. So that's encouraging to hear for sure.
Yeah, there's a ton of growth. And even going back into the clinic, working with a physician, I have a lot of friends that have done that too. So really, I mean, the world is your oyster. I know people have gotten into even medical sales, because just really your background and your anatomy and understanding like certain procedures and injuries and healing and things like that really does open the door for a lot of other things, if you don't want to do athletic training forever.
That's exciting. Now that you've been in this career for several years, is there anything that you've learned about it or experienced that you wish you would have known, maybe while you were still in high school, looking at
Mhm.
career options, or even while you were in college, that maybe could have made your pathway to where you're at now easier, or anything like that?
Yeah. I've had a great path. I think just played sports all my life, worked with athletic trainers a lot, and had the opportunity to continue doing it through through my education at Georgia and coming to Arkansas. So I think really just surrounding yourself with people, like if you have interest in really anything now, if it's not athletic training, if it's any field, I think talking to people and communicating about what you want to do. And it's funny how things can just work out and you might get a call, later down the line, like, hey, like, I knew you were interested in this. Like, I know so-and-so that has this opportunity. And because that's kind of how the world works. So I think, if you really have an interest in athletic training or any other career field, I think it's just kind of putting yourself out there and talking to people that are doing it and that are already in it. And you can watch the doors and opportunities open up. Or you kind of get in there and you're like, oh, I actually hate this. Like, this saved me from, investing all this money into my career. And now you can kind of go and do something else. I think another thing I've learned a lot with athletic training, and really this is probably for any job, is you really got to go with the flow in life. Sometimes, you might want to get worked up over a situation. But at the end of the day, like sometimes it's okay to just kind of be quiet and tell your coach or whoever or your boss and just say like, okay, like I've got that next time or something, and kind of move on. Because sometimes a lot of our stressful moments or moments of conflict, a lot of times can just be avoided, especially with a lot of communication. That's one thing I think being in athletic training, I've learned to be a over communicator to avoid any problems with coaching staff or someone even understanding an injury or where they're at in the timeline. You've got to be able to communicate effectively, just with everyone, and your life will be relatively easy. Knock on wood. I tend to not have that many problems at work, but I do communicate a lot. I think I make and get like maybe 40 to 50 phone calls a day. But I'm also the head trainer for track. So like, when you're starting out, it won't be as aggressive. But yeah, a lot of communicating can save yourself a lot of headache.
Did you always know that you wanted to be an athletic trainer, like from early on in high school? Did you know that this is what you wanted to pursue?
No. Actually, I did know I wanted to be in sports medicine. I thought I wanted to be an orthopedic surgeon. Once I started shadowing them though and talking to them, I realized that this is not what I want to do. Because most of their time they'll see, they'll talk to patients in the clinic, but they're cutting on you, and then it's, you're going to see the PT or you're working with your athletic trainer at school. There's not that personal connection is what I live for in life, and working with different people. No, I did not always want to be an athletic trainer, but me putting myself out there and meeting orthopedic surgeons and doctors when I was in school and even in high school, I found this other cool path, athletic training, that I never really thought of, even though, I've always seen my athletic trainer at high school, but I never thought like, oh, like I could actually do that as a career. And it wasn't until I started exploring other things I was interested in that I realized I didn't want to do, that I fell upon athletic training and got more immersed into it. And I was like, oh, I'm actually pretty good at this. And I think I can really, make a difference and make an impact in this career field. So yeah, no, I didn't always think I wanted to be an athletic trainer, but now it's part of me, it's part of my identity. And I couldn't imagine any other career path for where I'm at in life right now.
So when you're training to become an athletic trainer, obviously like an athletic trainer for high school works with athletes of all sports, because most high schools have one athletic trainer, maybe two at a really big high school. But you're very specialized working with track and field. does someone's, if they want to be a college athletic trainer, does their training need to be like sport specific in order to hopefully land a job in a particular sport? Or is it basically just like, I'm an athletic trainer, I'm going to apply for the U of A and
Yeah.
get whatever opening is available, if that makes sense?
Right. I would say once you're actually applying for jobs, like after you've gotten your education, I think your experiences are a little more important. But I would say for right now, like again, especially when you're a student, we encourage you to get as many different experiences as you can. You know, we send a lot of our students in the program. They're students at high schools. I mean, some of you guys on the call, you guys might have some of our master students at your schools helping out if you do have an athletic trainer. They're with us at the U of A. They're at like John Brown University. They're going to see like different places and seeing how different things work. And I think that's a really big part of it. Now, after you do have those experiences and you figure out, you know, I want to work in baseball or I want to work in football, it is important to get those experiences and look for internships in those fields because they do want to see you, you know, have a good understanding of like the biomechanics of that sport, you know, certain injuries that are more common in those specific sports that you're working with. So that is very important kind of once you're, I would say once you're actually in the athletic training program, seeking those experiences out and looking for internships in the summer that help supplement like what you think you want to do and what field you want to go in. But for right now, I think just spending time around different athletic trainers is the perfect way to go and gain some experience.
Awesome, thank you. Again, guys, if you have any questions that come up that you want to make sure we ask, make sure you get those posted in the chat. And other than that, I'm about out of questions here. So, Deanna, if you have anything else to add, anything you've thought of that we haven't really touched on, feel free to share that. And we'll give it a few more minutes and see if anybody posts any questions in the chat while you're adding anything that you would like to add.
Cool. Well, I just want to say thanks for having me, guys. It's been really nice to talk to y'all about athletic training. It's been, you know, just a force in my life for almost the last decade. And it's been a really, really fun profession to be involved in. And I hope that I could kind of give a glimpse of like what my day-to-day is like and kind of some other opportunities you may have. I'm going to go ahead and put my email in the chat. If anyone has any questions or want to reach out about shadowing opportunities or oh, I see what other colleges are great for athletic training. I think Arkansas does a great job in this program. I think Georgia has a great master's program. I'm biased. I went to school there for undergrad, but they've done a really good job transitioning over. It's kind of different now too, just with there's less athletic training programs now than there used to be, just with the change in education. But I think anywhere in the SEC is really good, just because and again, it depends on what level of sport and what experience you're looking for. But if you do want to be kind of in a bigger setting, then I think kind of staying with some of these bigger schools are really good for you. Oklahoma, I think, has a really good program. These are all kind of like regional places. But yeah, there's a lot of good settings. And to preface that, every athletic training program follows the same set of standards. It's a set of educational standards called CAATE, CAATE. So no matter where you go and what program you're in, you have to learn the same objectives. Now, the only difference in those programs might be like the type of clinical experiences that you have, because a part of like you getting your education is you have a clinical site typically every semester. Some schools are different. Maybe you might be there for a year, but you know the options for your immersive clinical experiences might be different if you go to a smaller school compared to you know, a bigger athletic program.
That was a good question. Thank you, guys. So if there are no more questions, I would like to just go ahead and thank you, Ms. Prentice, for joining us and sharing so much information about your field. I know I learned some things that I didn't know about the athletic training field, so I hope our students did too. Guys, she did post her email address in the chat. So she said that she's open to questions if you guys have any. So make sure if you're interested, make sure you write that down. And I'll give it about another minute or so if anybody has any last minute questions to post in there. But other than that, thank you so much for joining us today. We really, really appreciate it and appreciate you sharing this information with our students.
Yeah, glad to be here. I'm sorry I'm so congested. Life.
It's okay. I think that's a lot of people this time of year. Right?
Yes.
All right, guys. So thank you so much for being a great audience. Thank you, Ms. Prentice, again. We appreciate you.